A lot of stuff's changed.
I'm quiet, be great. Carl's quiet.
Yep. Are you ready?
Did you get the camera going there, August?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Public comment?
Yes, I am, but you guys first.
I thought, I apologize, I didn't know I was at the bridge meeting, I thought I was late.
Either one's fine.
So we've done ours, go ahead.
You're fine.
Anybody else for public comment? Crowd in front of anybody? My name is Robert Bogue. Nice to see the entire county board here this morning. And of course, I want to talk about the airport. Why are you smiling, Carl?
I'm happy.
I'm glad you're happy. You know, in the last 12 months, there was a policy change. If you had a T-hanger and you leased it, you had to provide insurance and name the county additionally insured. If you were flying an airplane, if you had a plane that was flyable and you're flying the darn thing. So a recent FOIA request that I made to the county came back with some surprises. What I learned is that of the 15 hangars out there that are being used and occupied by people, there's only 12 leases. And I thought you had to have a written lease to have one of those T-hangars. And I also learned that if you have planes that are flying, you're supposed to have the $1 million of insurance and name the county as additionally insured, and there are only 7 people who made that attempt. One person named the county as additionally insured. The other 6, one of which on his certificate of insurance says 000, meaning there's not $1 million for him, it's just his name is listed. And then the other, of that 6, the other 5 are people that named the county, not named the county, but provided $1 million of insurance. Those are records. That's been in place for the last 12 months while you've had a clerk out there and you've had a manager out there. All of these people are familiar with this process. They've been out there long enough to know that if you're going to operate an airport, all the rules need to be the same. They need to enforce them. These are documents, and where I am now with this is that I went ahead and took the information from the FOIA request and sent along to the FAA and said, look, there's only 7 people here that allege to be flying airplanes at the Edgar County Airport. Only 7. It was just, what, a year and a half ago, the county was saying there are 35. So that is something that I think you folks need to consider, is that the people that you have in place at the airport are not doing their job. The manager should have been let go a long time ago. He never should have been hired. But now that he's here and you understand what this really is and what he's doing, it'd be a good time to let him go. The same thing for the clerk. When I talk about people that are flying aircraft, there's some people out there that are in fact flying aircraft that refuse to provide the insurance. I understand Mr. Helsley went for an airplane ride in Mr. Patrick's plane to Springfield. Mr. Helsley is a board member, he's on the airport committee, and of all the people in the world, this is one person that should be saying, hey, Chris, have you got your insurance in order here so we can do this properly? But that hasn't been the case. That's what I've got to say here. I think that covers it kind of quickly. I have sent the copies of the FOIA request to everybody I know in Washington, D.C., and Chicago, and Springfield with the FAA offices. And I'm going to continue to do that until you folks just get the job done. Go out there and clean house and bring everything in order and move on. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment? If not, we'll have committee reports. Jeff?
Budget. You all have a copy of the budget. We've got approximately 25% of the year behind us. Once we get to the end of February, the expenditures equal about 17.71%. Okay, at this point, we've got about 12, not quite 13% of our income in. Everybody looks pretty much in line. The court systems, they have to do what they have to do. Every time we build the budget, we do the best we can. We do not know, nor does the judiciary know, what type of cases they're going to get. So we're going to have to just they keep us informed, which is wonderful, and we just have to roll with the punches because they have to offer people the proper defense. You know, they have to treat everybody you know, in the spirit of the law, so.
Does that stay about the same every year, that fund for, just so the rest of you know what I'm talking about? The judge has communicated to Jeff and myself that they're gonna need a little extra money for investigations on a murder trial they got coming up. And that money historically comes from the public defender fund. And there's another fund that comes out of, is that correct?
Well, we have a judiciary fund also.
Okay,
And we tried to do the best we can to
right.
guess.
You have no idea how, some years they may not touch it, other years it may go way up, depending, because you don't know how. So, it's my understanding that both of those funds are depleted now.
I'm not sure they're depleted, hang on, I didn't. I got to tell you that, I'm sorry.
See this month's bills that we do have for investigation.
Okay.
Yes, yeah, and it is depleted at this point, we're running about 125%.
Okay, so that money comes out of the general fund, and then it's up to Judge Garst to administer that.
That's
To
correct.
keep his thumb on it. Okay.
Yes. I mean, everybody's acting responsibly.
Okay.
There's no, everybody's communicating, we do the best we can. They do the best we can, or the best they can, and communication's the key to it.
Jeff, is that the only place we can pull money from on those funds? Can we not pull that out of any of those other judiciary, which
At
fund I'm
this
talking
point,
about?
it hasn't been available to us.
Well, that's what,
And there are certain rules, like on probation and some of the other accounts on what they can use them for. And that's
State's
what-
attorneys, we can't take any out of the state's attorneys.
I'm thinking more like the court service fees.
Yeah, we can check with him, but
That's what I think he
historically,
would,
that gets into a different pay grade when you start tapping those funds.
I understand, I'm just wondering if that's a
It's,
spot, because
we can
that's
check,
that's a spot that,
all right. Additionally, we have an airport meeting tonight at 6:30 out at the airport. I think we reported to you at the last meeting that we had a bid for the repairing the cracks out at the airport of $21,120. And since that time, we have gotten another approved bid for $7,410, which is gonna do the job. And once we get everybody on board, we're probably gonna move forward with that, get on the docket for work so that we can get that done just as quickly as we can and get everything else lined out.
That's
Okay?
not on Wednesday's, is it,
Agenda.
agenda? Okay.
Got the agenda, I'm not sure.
You,
No.
I asked Ben about that, and he simply said that we.
Yeah, in my opinion, that's a airport, and the airport board approves that, and then all they have to do with us is tell us.
Okay.
That, if your committee,
Oh, 'cause it can come out of the airport.
Yes.
But, no problem.
if your committee decides that that's what you wanna do, then then Jeff or somebody will tell us on Wednesday.
Okay.
but you said that also went from 20-some thousand down to like
400.
Yeah, 400, so that's
And just so the rest of you know, the urgency is to get that in now first, so that we can get on the list and get it done. And we're not getting it done in August or September next year, so.
And the contractors understand that.
Okay.
And they're willing, we're talking about a 10-hour day roughly to get that done.
Okay.
They're gonna do it all in one day. We'll supply flaggers if we need to, and in accordance with how you handle that, so that we maintain safety at the airport.
Okay. Airport manager shuts down there or calls over and tells them it's closed for certain.
Probably get some volunteers.
Yeah, so
It's not on the main runway, it's just that taxiway.
Right. I don't know how it works.
County board members on that committee probably should do the flagging.
And with the chairman out there supervising, I'm sure he'll set a chair.
He's gonna be in Springfield.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah.
some of you
Sure.
might make sure you don't get the jacket with the target on it.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I wear
that's
that
pretty
coat
much
all the
all I've got right now. As far as the hangar leases, I've been meeting with the state's attorney. I did want to point to the fact that the current lease that we have as far as the blank, includes not only flyable aircraft, but non-flyable aircraft. If you've got an aircraft in there and it's not flyable, it still has to be insured. And so we're big, it's up to them.
Dan, may I ask a question?
Go ahead.
Just to, you said that you have to have $1 million on non-flyable aircraft.
I didn't say
I mean,
anything.
that's what you're just saying here.
I'm saying
clear
that
on that.
whether or not the insurance is in effect whether you have a flyable or non-flyable aircraft. It says it right in the lease.
But if you have a non-flyable or a flyable aircraft, it doesn't have to name the county as additional insurance?
Yes, it does.
Okay, so
Yes.
that you have,
Yes.
at the present documents I have, the FOIA documents are correct, there's only one airplane that's done that.
Oh, no, I don't know what you got. We're almost complete with the thing, and I've got 15 leases. I don't know why you've only got 12.
That's all I got in FOIA response.
I've got to, anyway, we can discuss that later.
You'll go over all that tonight at your meeting,
Some
right?
of it, yes,
Yeah.
as much as I need to.
You have anything else?
Mm-mm.
Andy?
We got the, about half of we got the air handler unit put into the judge's chambers. They've got some heat up there now, is my understanding. We're waiting on, they've ordered the,
Condensing?
yeah, and that should be in the next couple weeks. I did check on the lumber, and I
Is
think
it
we're gonna-
rotten?
What's that?
Is it rotten?
Well, it's not that it's rotten, but
While you're doing it, just
Think-
while you're doing it?
yeah, we're gonna go ahead and replace it.
Yeah.
Jeff and I, we went and took a tour of the, kind of the courthouse, and part of it was when they laid there's joists that they ran one way, and then they ran joists the other way to set the units on. Well, they set the joists going the other, they're 4x4s, but they, 4x6s, but they sat them the wrong way.
Yeah.
So they're bowing down, and I thought, now's the time to put them in the right way, so, Bob he's getting the lumber, and when they get ready to take that out, he's gonna replace the lumber and set them on there. So that should be done hopefully within the next month or so.
How you gonna get it up there, do you know yet?
I think he talked like he was gonna get Tom Judy to come in and do it.
Okay.
Who's doing the work?
Paris Refrigeration, they were the lowest bid,
Right.
and his bid included,
He's good. Tom does good.
he does work for me,
Me too.
so, anyway, that should be completed. We took something to keep in mind. Bob kinda showed us around, we went up in the attic of the courthouse, and I could see certain places where you can see daylight through the roof. And I said something to Bob, I said, I can see daylight up there. He goes, yeah, if it rains, you gotta get up here and move buckets around. So something's gonna have to be done there, and I'm not quite sure exactly what we're looking into it. Let's see, it could be expensive, it maybe not, I don't know yet. That's a slate roof, a lot of metal and slate roof up there. So, some we're gonna look around and see exactly what it is, we'll report back when we find out. But something to keep in mind.
You've got the number and name of the person that used to work on it, or his,
No, who did? Worked on the slate roof itself?
Yes.
Okay.
RL High.
yeah.
Out
We
of Clinton?
gave that to the previous committee. I thought sure that'd be done by now.
Out of Clinton?
No,
Oh,
Yes.
Illinois.
Clinton,
Illinois.
Illinois,
When you said
yeah.
Clinton, Indiana, I thought you
No.
meant Indiana, didn't you? Or
Well,
it's Illinois.
someone
where
just
he's
said
from.
RL High out of
Right.
Clinton, so I didn't go any further.
And he's dead.
He's not around, but
I was gonna say, it's my understanding they're not around.
the company is.
Yes.
Oh, the company's still there?
Yep.
Okay, all right. Well, look into that then. But something needs to be done relatively soon, so. Other than that, that's about it.
Thank you. Dan?
Made my weekly stop at the animal shelter last week. Everything's running well. I think they said he's down to 7 dogs, so they've got, I think they've adopted out quite a few dogs. And I know we were concerned about sending out the letters for tags, and they have all those ready to send out. So that's gonna happen in the near future.
Just as an add-on, not to interrupt your, but I really appreciate the fact since Linda's been there, they are much more serious about contacting people on these tags and stuff. So if any of you guys haven't paid, get ready.
I mean, I get-
Yeah, we're gonna get a
Get
letter.
ready.
Yeah, don't
Alright.
say your dog's dead. either.
Yeah. That old story about your dog
Yeah.
being dead, or,
Yeah,
you know,
it
the
doesn't
kid
work.
ate, you know, the dog ate your kid's homework, that doesn't work either, okay? So,
Old
they
Lynn-
really
old
have, I
Lynn
mean,
be scratching the whip, huh?
with those two out there, I kinda think,
Good for her.
they're both, they,
Right, Linda's doing
very
a great
serious.
job, so.
So,
And they have some good volunteers.
yes, that, we don't want to forget that.
I want to give a compliment to the sheriff department. I had a complaint about a dog running in neighborhood loose, so the person put the dog in their garage, and then I suggested call the police or sheriff, and he did, and it was taken care of. The dog was picked up, and I think somebody that picked up the dog kept the dog, so basically adopted out right at that particular time, so it worked out very well, but they did respond to the situation. And Andy just mentioned the heating and cooling system at the Edgar County Health Department. I think we can get a person to come in and give us a estimate, specs and so forth, what needs to be done with a nominal fee. I think it's maybe $300 or $400. And then that way we can put it out on bid. To me, that would be the best way of doing it. And I think they would have the money, but I will check with Janet today, and I'll stop and talk to Holly to see if they okay it, and we'll go ahead and do that. That's all right with the board. So something has to be done, and this way it may be done correctly.
Maybe you'll get correct bids, if you got
Right,
specs.
right. We'll have the specs, and then we'll put the specs out and then get the bids back in. It may cost a little money, but I think it's worth it in the long run. So I'll do that. Other than that, no problems.
Thank you. Mike?
Well, was at the jail last week with the state jail inspectors. The regular inspector was there, and his boss, Mike, yeah, was there, and Jeff and I and Jeff's designated jailer was there, and I thought it went real well. Those guys emphasized that they were there. They were not there to close our jail by any means. They're there to help us, and they're mandated by state statute for certain things they're supposed to do. And they were very, they spell it all out. We took a walk through the jail. I personally have seen a big improvement since last time I was there in the cell block area. It's just cleaner, painted. Even the old part was a lot. There's anything that can be taken care of with soap and water and a little paint's been done. Now obviously we all know there's some major issues back there, but it's gonna take cash. But other than that, the new part was substantially cleaner, neater, and less of a hassle than the last time I was there. So I'd like for Sheriff maybe give a little bit of report on what he got from him. I had to leave early, and I don't know what was said after I left, so.
Basically, we just sit down, went through the old report, and I mean, there's things they said we will never get past them. But it's, you know, by not being able to pass this, trickles down, we can't pass the next thing. You know, we got our staff back up to their standards. Some safety issues we got up, some cameras. But like he said, they have no intentions of shutting us down. They did talk to us about the school that's in Colorado to go to. I just got the information this morning. Mike Funk sent me that stuff for you guys to look into it. It's all expense paid through grants.
Not to interrupt him, but one of the things that I've shared it with Jeff, I haven't the rest of it. They were really excited about that. If we would be willing to look at a 10-year, 15-year plan, this school, this operation out in Colorado would say, look, you're this size of county, you're this kind of an organization, this kind of operation, here's what all your other counties have tried, this worked, this didn't. But if you want a new jail, or you're going to have to build a new jail, or you're going to have to do something, new construct, here's how you go about it. Here's your long-range plan. Have you tried this? Have you done this? Have you talked to this organization? You know, have you tried private funding? Have you tried government funding? That's all free, and it's a good idea that the sheriff and board member, and sometimes they even want the treasurer
Treasurer,
to go along. And it's not gonna cost us anything, and it's something that we started to do. You probably all can remember Ed and Chris were headed out that way, and then
And me.
and you, and then it just died on the vine, because who cares, but that, it did. And now they're saying that really got those guys' attention. We're willing to do that, and that shows them that we're making an effort to do everything we can to make this, to remedy this problem.
And it's not one dime out of our pocket.
Right. That's what they wanna see. They realize we can't write a check and build a new jail, so, but if we're at least talking about how we're gonna do this eventually, and that really got those guys, where we need them to be. That was a trade-off. In other words, we can buy a little bit of time.
And there was other how-to seminars. You said that
Right.
if we get, I hate to say points,
Right.
but it looks like we're trying to learn so we can get ourselves into a position
Right.
so we can deal with the issue.
Well, we need to, rather than assume, well, what do we do? These people say, hey, you're at this level. Here's what you need to do to get to this level. And these are some ideas that you may have, some ideas you may not have a clue about, which I'm sure that's what category most of us would
They
do.
basically take us by the hand and walk us through
Right,
the steps. I don't remember now, it was 3 days,
something like that, yeah. Somewhere out by Denver or Aurora or somewhere.
Denver, yeah, this was at Denver.
I saw the schedule on the first time. They pack you in. I mean, it's start first thing and into the night for 3 days.
Yeah.
It's,
So we need to consider that. And, Jeff's also gonna be going to, some seminars, and there'll be vendors there. That's one thing I took out of this meeting, that when we start running into problem with like toilets that are obsolete, there'll be people there say, hey, we know just where you can get 2 or 3 of those toilet parts, or that's what he's committed to do, and I'm glad, because now we can go out and maybe get some of these parts, maybe some connections for our electric issues that we got up there. We can get some of this fixed. They were very upset when they saw that pie door going. that was just, they thought they didn't, why, they were asking why did that happen, and nobody really had a good answer. But that's all water under the bridge. I'm just saying that, but I'm sorry, I didn't interrupt you.
About all I had, I think. Just, we got a lot of little stuff fixed. In about 3 weeks' time, like I say, our staff is a big problem. Our biggest problem is there's stuff with a facility this age that we're never gonna be completely compliant. But we're gonna have
Jeff,
to make do.
I'll tell you, and the state's attorney still hasn't got back to me on letting us know about the prisoner health issue.
Okay.
So, it's not, you just haven't
I've got a
gotten it.
meeting with him, I think today at 3 o'clock.
Well, they asked a lot of questions about that too, about what we were doing and how we were getting them through, and about the nurse, and
Right.
that seemed to satisfy them. I was just real impressed with how much it had cleaned up there. So as long as we keep going that direction, that's not a bad thing. And you guys call him up some Tuesday afternoon or something, go up there just one-on-one and go through there. You've got time, and if he's got time, I'm sure that you need to go up there and take a look at that thing. And it's really you need to know, you need to understand it, what the process is up there. While we were up there, there was people getting arrested, people getting brought in. I see where the manpower issues are. I mean, everything that has to happen, and why we need extra people on shift sometimes, and some shifts we don't.
You done?
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you. Carl?
I stopped at the jail this morning, and I did talk to Jeff a little bit about those issues, and I told him that sometime next week that we need to get a sheriff's meeting to discuss more about that and, this $25,000 grant. Have a discussion on that, decide where we want to apply that money to. When we apply for the grant, we have to be fairly specific on whether we're going to do it for the jail equipment. He's obviously wants some equipment, radio equipment, computer equipment stuff, so we need to have a discussion and get that going.
See where everything best applied.
Right. And I know last meeting we had out here, we had a lengthy discussion on the ISO
Yes.
stuff. And I briefly talked to Nanette this morning, and her and the sheriff are gathering data to send to the ISO. Is it ISO? Yeah. People out in New Jersey to get them documentation, you know, it's time consuming. I asked specifically when she talked to that lady, you know, I think it was brought up last time that a lot of the information that they got to give the communications rating on the ISO was from a national database, and Nanette specifically asked her about that database, and she had no clue where that information come from. And I know Kirk made a big issue that it was 911's lack of responsibility in doing all this, and I beg to differ with him because, in my opinion, 911 didn't have anything to do with it. You know, he was suggesting that the 911 board should resign because they weren't doing their duty, and that totally is wrong. You know, the 911 people had no idea that telecommunications had anything to do with ISO. I know Nanette talked to a couple other coordinators, and they had no clue what she was talking about when she told them about this ISO ratings. And to me, the people that dropped the ball is the ISO rating company, or whatever it's called. You know, they were asked last summer or fall, whenever they came to the Paris Police Department or Fire Department to do the ratings, to come and talk to 911, the communication people, and they said they didn't have time. I know Troy and Annette both talked to them recently. They said, we're not gonna spend the time to come out there. So, you know, they're the ones that dropped the ball. It didn't have anything to do with 911 or the sheriff. And basically, communication is the sheriff. It's not so much 911. The sheriff is in charge of all that. But they're working together to gather the information to get to them. And still, the next time they need to be told, the next time you come to Edgar County, you need to make a point to come to the jail and talk to the 911 people and the sheriff to see actually what is going on. So I think, you know, they're taking steps to get it corrected, but it's none of our responsibility as far as I'm concerned. It's the people. They didn't do their job.
But them not doing their job costs people here.
Yes, potentially.
And yes, and I'm thinking that the letter from the sheriff and a letter from 911 to them would let them know that they're the ones that dropped the ball, and then they would probably be more responsive. I don't know if you're emailing or how you're doing it now, but when you get something that they can't deny.
Right. But, you know, only 10% of the rating is communication based anyway, so, you know, it's very minimal effect on the actual ratings. So,
But we are still working at it to see if we can get it
yes.
where we,
She said she spent several days, a half a day, and she's only through half of the year in gathering the information, and she's hopefully.
But that's a one-time thing, then you know how
Right.
you've got to keep them records for that, right? But
Yeah.
in the future.
But if they don't even come to you and ask for them.
Sure, I'm not arguing that, I'm saying.
Yeah, so, but yeah, they're both working on that to get the information to them.
So they're doing their jobs and those folks' job. both.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Nice.
But they definitely, next time they come to Edgar County, when they say they don't have time, well, at some point in time, they're gonna come to some fire department to do a rating. They need to come here and talk to them. Yeah.
I thought they came to fire departments when the fire departments requested them. Because the fire departments have to perform certain things and show that they can. Well, it would
It isn't
seem-
like they come every year, do an annual
No,
inspection,
right.
they just,
Not that I know, right.
I kind of do it.
Every 3 years or so, I think.
Well, Brian Gates said they hadn't come for 17 years.
They said
They're-
years.
Oh, I thought,
Yeah, and they just came this past year.
I was going by what our fire chief had said, but maybe they've requested them in more often.
Could be.
I don't know.
Yeah. Okay. That's all I had.
Thank you.
Do they actually come and run tests though, correct?
For the fire department,
I mean,
they
they
want
wanna see X amount of gallons out of place.
they want to see that you can produce that many gallons
Yes.
at a fire if you want that rating.
Do they also, as far as your communication equipment, do
Yeah.
they have some sort of a outline that they want you to be able to have this amount of equipment in place or something? I mean, I guess what I'm trying to find out, how do they rate you on communication equipment?
Nobody seems, even that lady didn't even know.
She did. Kinda hard,
She is,
kinda hard to get ready for it if they can't tell you what you need to be
and
ready for.
they have never, ever came to Edgar County to look at, the communications side of things.
Okay.
Yet they have a,
You have to have a
that
spec.
they have the specs and there's, but they're
Well,
not using
yeah.
any
Yeah,
information except the
there's
database.
different criteria that they go by, like on your protocols and, like you have to have on 99% of the calls have to be answered within 45 seconds and, stuff like that.
Okay.
And, we've got documentation to show that we're
You do that.
almost basically, except like last year, 3 calls out of several thousand that weren't handled within 45 seconds. So, I mean, we're in compliance, but,
They never looked.
yeah.
One of the things that they, just to give you an idea, they were saying we needed they would like to see us have, I think Kurt emphasized this, board that followed the cars all over Edgar County. Well, $100,000 would maybe touch it, and our system works. We don't need that. And that's the kind of the information that's going back and forth. Well, why don't you have that? Well, we don't need it. And we're efficient without that, and why does 911 need to spend $100,000 on something that we don't need? We know where everybody lives. It's not that difficult. And it can show where we've answered the calls properly with the system we
Yeah, it's
got.
not like we've got 4 million people.
Right. It
We've got
changes.
17,000 people here.
And sheriff knows 15,000 of them, so. He even knows what color the horses are.
Happy birthdays.
Yeah, it's birthday.
I thought that system cost more than 100,000.
Well, I'm just
I
throwing that,
guarantee you it would be more than 100,000.
Yeah.
but those are the kind of things that we need, as a board, need to understand it. Where it's, Carl's right, it's not 911's fault this time. I don't think they did anything wrong. And I commend them for trying to fix a problem. It's really not their responsibility. They're just trying to get it done and get it done right. And who cares who's blamed? Let's get it. We can save people money.
I guess that's
we
what
need
I
to
was asking. I mean, the idea is, it sounds like we're trying to work with it. This is an after the fact. We don't care how it came about. We're trying to help out the citizens of Edgar County. I mean, it sounds like that's what we're trying to do.
Everything else? Thank you. Alan?
Oh, Ben, we're gonna have a joint insurance and building and grounds meeting on February 18th, 9 o'clock. That's Andy and Mike and I at Creighton. Of course, everybody else is invited too. Figured we'd probably start off with the insurance. Lucia will be there. How you plan on being there? You could get Billy Ann to be there too, because she'll probably have as many questions, and tell her to come with questions if she has it. Trying to look at also a calendar of insurance activities, to try to do that last year too, so we knew when different things were coming up. Hopefully that'll be there. On building and grounds, some of the things that the chairman over there talked about, that'll be some of the things, and one of the things we talked a little bit about with maybe Mike and Andy and I, we may take dismiss the meeting at Cressman, or at Kreckman, and go like on a little walking tour of some of the places around if we have time, so that may
Is
be.
that correct in building?
Yes, and you're more than welcome at 9. 9 on the 18th.
And he's in charge of how many of the buildings?
I was gonna say, he's
We're
in charge
technically,
of one.
well, but here's the
Yeah,
deal,
one
we're technically in charge of the buildings, as I read that. This poor old guy has to make sure they're upkept and taken care of.
Right.
So like, this committee and this board is in charge of doing
Custodian.
things to the, kind, right. And so,
Custodian, I think is
yeah,
what
that's
it
what it is. It's like, this guy gets stuck with dealing with whatever we wanna give him. as far as the type of building and the facility. So we may say, as a group, we're shutting down the building, obviously can't do that to the courthouse or the jail, I guess we could, technically. But then he has to be stuck with the custodian of taking care of those things. So, that's, you're more than welcome, anybody of course is, but that's the thing we have coming up next week at 9 o'clock. Start out with the at Beckman, and we'll start out with the insurance part of
And
it.
any of you guys got any buildings that you work for, like you, spell it out, because we need to know.
Well, and his is probably gonna come a little bit, out of different,
Well,
that's what we can talk about then too, is like, not out of our quote unquote, our budget or our long range plans, if we're talking about a jail, or one of my concerns was always, the lady who sits on top of the courthouse, how we're paying for
We have a
her.
different committee we have to go through.
And
to
it's all
county
kind of different, so, anyway, that's the two major things, and also, I don't know, the three of us are also on Road and Bridge, so I haven't talked with these two guys just to see if we also want to throw Road and Bridge Committee on the tail end of that also.
Well, you're making it really, really.
Yeah.
Mr.
You
Efficient.
know what? That's what we're here for.
Better check the heat.
I think that's it for right now, Mr. Chairman,
Yeah, you're-
before they start throwing stones at me,
Our regular schedule for Road and Bridge would be
It is,
not then, right?
no, but as a committee, the three of us
Oh, okay.
are on
I
Road and
got you.
Bridge.
I'm with
And
you.
the same three of us are also, I thought you did have to be honoring myself. We put us on Road and Bridge, Building and Grounds and Insurance all together. I thought, no, he's just being expedient. He's trying to make
He
sure that we
is.
can all.
That's him.
That was-
Yeah, that was what it really was, right.
That's all you got?
Yeah.
Anything else coming for this meeting?
What about Augie?
Yeah, we'll get Augie and the sheriff before we, go ahead.
I got two things. Number one, you've got your board packets. The agenda looks pretty light this month, so
It's lighter than you think. Since
Yes.
we're eliminating the.
According to Mr.
All the resolutions got eliminated.
Yeah.
yeah. And then the other thing is, I'll be more than happy to accompany the delegation to Denver to take notes and minutes of the meeting, but schedule it after
At your
the,
expense.
no, after the election, which is April 7th. So after that, I'm available.
You go to my place.
Just kidding. That's all I have.
Do you have anything else, Sheriff?
Well, I've got.
How many, what's your average? Did you tell me the other day, we're averaging 30 now?
Yeah, high 20s, we was up to like 42 or 43 this weekend.
Now, half of them emergency room too.
That's what I hear.
Yeah.
I said,
Great.
either before or after you do all that.
Got a smile on your face.
Yeah.
So you doubled occupancy over the weekend?
Yeah,
So doing this?
I move we adjourn.
We have a motion to adjourn, if we get a second.
do we have a, do we need a, whatever?
Closed session.
Okay.
Not to interrupt you, but I don't think so.
Okay. That's fine.
So I'll second the adjourn.
We have a motion and a second to adjourn. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Same sign.
Well, I forgot to mention that there is a 911 having their meeting, monthly meeting today at 4:30 at the courthouse. If anybody's interested in attending.
Barely miss it. Get that and then go to your airport.
There you go.
I think that's it.
Anybody gonna move?